The urban legends of ancient Rome mixed myths, superstitions, and folk tales that captured the imagination of its inhabitants. Here are some of the most fascinating. 1. The ghost of Tullia. Tullia, daughter of Servius Tullius, the sixth king of Rome, was said to be responsible for her father's death. After having brutally murdered him with the help of her husband Tarquinius the Proud, Tullia was driving a chariot through the city and accidentally drove over her father's corpse, triggering a curse. Her ghost was believed to roam the streets of Rome, tormented by the weight of her betrayal. 2. The cursed treasure of the Caesars. An urban legend tells that Roman emperors hid a treasure in the catacombs of Rome, and that anyone who tried to find it faced certain death. Explorers who ventured into the tunnels never returned, and disappearances gave rise to tales of phantom guardians or curses protecting the riches. 3. The Fountain of Youth. In Rome, there was a rumor of a secret fountain that granted eternal youth to those who drank from it. Although the city was full of fountains and aqueducts, this particular one was said to be accessible only to a lucky few. Emperors and members of the nobility would have spent years searching for this fountain in vain. 4. The Lupercal. The Lupercal, the cave where, according to legend, the she-wolf Luperca suckled Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, was also surrounded by myths. Aside from its historical and religious significance, some believe that if anyone unworthy approached the cave, they would be attacked by a spectral wolf that protected the sacred place. 5. The Talking Statue of Pasquino. Although its origin is more closely linked to the Renaissance, the myth of the talking statues can be traced back to ancient Rome. It was believed that certain statues could come to life at night to reveal secrets and scandals of the government or the aristocracy. Among them, one of the most famous was the statue of Pasquino, near which mysterious satirical inscriptions appeared that criticized the powerful. 6. The Lady of the Tiber. In ancient times, the Romans believed that the Tiber River was inhabited by spirits or supernatural beings. One of the most popular tales told of a lady who lived in its waters and lured men to their deaths. Some thought she was a vengeful nymph or a ghost of a woman betrayed by her lover, seeking revenge. In the Circus Maximus, echoes of past races can still be heard. The ghosts of ancient charioteers compete eternally, reliving glories and tragedies, while the wind carries the sound of wheels and hooves in the arena. Titus Livius, though dead for centuries, still tells stories from beyond the grave. In the silent nights, whispers of battles and heroes can be heard, as if his words sought to keep the memory of Rome alive. When night falls, the Arch of Titus comes to life. Ancient figures seem to emerge from the shadows, reliving triumphs and defeats. Visitors get a chill when they look at these sculpted faces, full of history. On the mysterious Tiber Island, the waters seem to whisper ancient secrets. Mystical creatures are said to inhabit its depths, protecting the legacy of Rome and awakening fantasies in those who dare to cross its boundaries. The baths of Caracalla, majestic in their abandonment, have sparked rumors of hauntings. Visitors claim to feel ethereal presences as they walk through its corridors, as if echoes of the past still resonate in every corner. Catiline, known for his conspiracies, left an indelible mark on Rome. Although centuries have passed, his shadow seems to persist, fueling legends that his dark plans still whisper within the city walls. At the theater of Marcellus, ancient tragedies are said to come to life. The ruins, steeped in history, seem to vibrate with the energy of past dramas, creating a stage where time has no meaning. Rome is full of enigmas that defy understanding. If you feel brave enough to explore these mysteries, open your mind to the unknown. Stories like these await discovery by those who seek the unexplainable. In ancient Rome, horror legends were deeply rooted in their beliefs about the underworld, spirits, and vengeful gods. Here are some of the scariest legends that circulated at the time. 1. The Curse of Romulus' Tomb. One of the most disturbing legends was connected with the tomb of Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome. The tomb was said to be guarded by a vengeful spirit who cursed anyone who tried to desecrate it. Those who dared to get too close suffered terrible hallucinations, saw shadows moving and heard spectral screams. The unluckiest of them did not make it out alive. 2. The Ghosts of the Damned on Vatican Hill. Before becoming the home of the Vatican, this hill was known as a place where criminals were executed. The souls of those executed, especially those who died by crucifixion, found no peace. Their spirits were said to roam the hill at night, seeking revenge or justice. Roman citizens avoided the hill after dark, as they feared encountering the specters of the condemned who moaned and screamed in search of redemption. 3. The specter of the Theatre of Pompey. The Theatre of Pompey, famous as the place where Julius Caesar was assassinated, was home to a terrifying legend. Caesar's spirit was said to rest in peace, and on the darkest nights his ghost would appear in the theater, bloodied and pale-faced. Some claim to have seen him walking around the stage, repeating his final words, "You too, Brutus?" Actors and audience members avoided the place after nightly rehearsals, fearing they would encounter the slain dictator. 4. The evil Laras. Laras were guardian spirits of homes, but not all spirits of this kind were benign. Some Laras, called larvae or lemurs, were said to be disturbed spirits of the dead who had not received proper funeral rites. These spirits found no rest and devoted themselves to tormenting the living. The houses where these evil spirits lived suffered constant misfortunes, objects falling by themselves, doors slamming shut, or shadowy figures lurking in the darkness. Terrified families performed rituals to appease these spirits, offering food or making sacrifices in their honor. 5. The shadow of Seneca. The famous philosopher and advisor to Emperor Nero, Seneca, was forced to commit suicide by his former disciple. After his death, a legend began to circulate that his spirit had found no rest due to Nero's betrayal. According to legend, Seneca's ghost would appear in the baths where he had cut his wrists, his toga soaked in blood, staring with vacant, accusatory eyes at anyone who passed by. The sight of his ghost was a bad omen, and many believed it heralded imminent death. 6. The vampire of slaves. A disturbing legend told of a vampire who stalked slaves in the poor neighborhoods of Rome. According to the myth, this being was a nobleman who had sold his soul to the gods of the underworld in exchange for eternal life. However, he was cursed to feed only on the blood of the most unfortunate, slaves. Tales describe a tall, hooded figure who stalked through the shadows, attacking slaves as they slept and leaving them dead, without a drop of blood in their bodies. Slave families would sleep together, with amulets and offerings to try to protect themselves from this nocturnal terror. 7. The cursed tunnel of the Cloaca Maxima. The Cloaca Maxima, one of the oldest sewer systems in Rome, was also the subject of dark legends. According to the stories, beneath the city ran a cursed tunnel where people disappeared. The more superstitious claimed that deep within the tunnel lived a monster or vengeful spirit that dragged the unwary into the depths. It was said that the screams of the missing could be heard echoing through the sewers on the quietest of nights. These legends, although terrible, reflected the deepest concerns and fears of the Romans, connected with death, the underworld, and the dark forces that they believed governed human destiny. In ancient Rome, prophecies and omens were an integral part of political, military, and religious life. Romans consulted augurs, oracles, and priests for guidance on important decisions, from the founding of the city to military campaigns. Some notable prophecies were recorded in history and played a crucial role in the events of the empire. Here are some of the most famous and mysterious prophecies of ancient Rome. 1. The prophecy of the 12 vultures and the founding of Rome. One of the oldest prophecies is related to the founding of Rome. According to legend, when Romulus and Remus, the founding twins, decided to create a new city, they consulted the augurs to determine who would be its leader. Romulus saw 12 vultures flying over the Palatine Hill, while Remus saw 6 over the Aventine. The augurs interpreted Romulus' vision as a sign that he would be the leader and that Rome would have a glorious destiny for 12 centuries. In fact, the Roman Empire lasted for approximately 1200 years, from its foundation in 753 BC to the fall of Constantinople in 1453 AD. 2. The Sibylline prophecies. The Sibylline books were a collection of prophetic oracles consulted in times of crisis. The Cumaean Sibyl, a priestess who lived in a cave near Naples, was famous for offering these books to King Tarquin the Proud. The Sibyl is said to have burned 3 of the 9 books when Tarquin refused to pay the original price for all of them. she eventually bought the remaining 3 at the original price. These texts were considered so valuable that only the highest religious officials were allowed access to them, and they were consulted on several occasions when Rome faced war, famine, or disaster. One of the most famous prophecies in the Sibylline books warned that if a foreign king was brought to Rome, the city would be destroyed. This oracle was misinterpreted by the Romans, who believed it referred to a human king. However, after the Roman troops betrayed Julius Caesar, his body was brought to Rome, and many interpreted this as the fulfillment of this prophecy. 3. The prophecy of Julius Caesar and the Ides of March. Julius Caesar was warned by a seer about the Ides of March, March 15th, the day on which, according to prophecy, he would be in great danger. According to Plutarch, the day before his assassination, Caesar passed the seer and said, "The Ides of March have already arrived," to which the seer replied, "Yes, but they have not yet passed." The next day, March 15, 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated by a group of senators at the theater of Pompey, fulfilling the ominous warning. 4. The curse of the house of the Scipios. The Scipio family, one of the most powerful in Rome, was shrouded in a prophecy of doom. It was said that the Scipios were cursed because of their excessive ambition. This prophecy seemed to be confirmed by the death of Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, the hero of the Punic Wars. After defeating Hannibal at the Battle of Zama, Scipio died in exile, and his house was condemned to disrepute. Subsequent generations of the Scipio family suffered tragedies and premature deaths, which reinforced the belief in the prophetic curse on their lineage. 5. The prophecy of Augustus and the birth of Christ. One of the most interesting legends of Rome is linked to the Emperor Augustus. According to certain later Christian accounts, Augustus visited the Sibyl of Tibur to ask her if he would be remembered as a god. The Sibyl showed him a vision of the open heavens and a resplendent child descending from the sky. She prophesied that this child would be the King of Heaven, and that his kingdom would eclipse that of the emperor. Many Christians interpreted this as a prophecy of the birth of Jesus, who was born during the reign of Augustus. 6. The prophecy of the destruction of Rome by the barbarians. Another prophecy that troubled the Romans warned that Rome would one day be invaded and destroyed by barbarian peoples from the north. For centuries, the Roman Empire seemed invulnerable, but in the 5th century, this prediction was fulfilled when the Visigoths, under Alaric, sacked Rome in 410 AD. Later, in 455 AD, the Vandals also sacked the city. These events were interpreted as the fulfillment of old prophecies of Rome's fall to the barbarians. 7. The prophecy of the end of the world. In ancient Rome, some believed in a prophecy that predicted the world would end in total conflagration. It was believed that fire would purify the world before its renewal, and that the old gods would be overthrown in a great battle. This prophecy had parallels with myths from other cultures, such as Ragnarok in Norse mythology, and was taken very seriously by some sectors of Roman society. Especially in times of crisis, when natural disasters or wars shook the empire, many feared that the end was near. These prophecies, intertwined with religion, politics, and the fate of Rome, played an important role in how the Romans viewed their history and future. The mystery and uncertainty surrounding the fate of their empire made them very receptive to messages from the gods and the warnings of their augurs and oracles.